All right, welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 669 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. We have a very special episode today because joining me, as you can see, for those of you watching on YouTube, is Constantine Kapetanakis, very loyal listener of Locked On New York Rangers, and also the runner-up in this past season's 20-team fantasy league. Constantine, you put a great team together, and man, we're a month away from the NHL starting, and are you ready for some Ranger hockey?
I am. I can't believe how excited it's going to be. We had a great season the past season, and I'm looking for a cup win. Not going to lie.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you get that close, just 2 wins away from going to the Stanley Cup final, I mean, I don't see any reason to have goals or expectations, anything short of winning the cup. I mean, they got so close and just so much fun. And, we'll get to some Ranger stuff in due time here, but I did want to give you a little bit of a chance to brag about your fantasy team from this past season. Obviously, you had the best record in the regular season, and we met in the championship, and you end up being the runner-up. But I got to ask you, when you were putting your team together last season, you have the draft. Did you feel like you had a championship caliber team? I mean, did you think you had a really good team, or were you kind of surprised by how well they did? Just kind of give me a feel for that, if you can.
See, this past season, I really didn't feel all that good coming out of the draft. I ended up picking a lot of good guys off the waiver wire.
Okay.
And I think that's what got me kind of far. I think as a matter of fact, the year prior, I thought my team was way better because I had Grubauer when he was a stud. And I just had Andrei Svechnikov, and I had like a really elite team then. This past season though, I got lucky. Pick guys off the waiver wire, ended up coming short to you, but I can't complain for second.
Hey, it was a battle, man. I knew when I got to the finals, I saw I was against you, and I thought, man, this guy's got a heck of a team, and it's gonna come down to the wire here. And I'm pretty sure it did. I'm pretty sure the championship round.
Yeah, it was 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, 4 or 5 or something along those lines. So definitely a battle all the way to the end there. But I do have to ask you about this. I was looking at the website over here, and I look back to see, what players you had on your team, because I didn't really remember a whole lot. But I did notice you have, let's see, Jake Gensel, you have Patrice Bergeron, you have David Pastrnak, a couple of Bruins, and a Penguin. I mean, so I guess you're able to kind of separate your rooting allegiances from, your fantasy team. Are you able to do that?
Yeah, I do think so. I think for a little bit of the season, I had Jake Trouba, and I was, excited for that. But yeah, I just look at the numbers during the season. I put away my allegiances. I saw that Jake Gensel was on fire. He was sniping the entire season. Pasta honestly didn't impress me, but Bergeron was a stud. So I put away my allegiances. I just keep track of the stats and go from there.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I wanted to ask you, I mean, was there anybody that you got last year that you thought was kind of a steal? I mean, I don't want you to give away your strategy for this upcoming season or anything like that, but I mean, I'm looking at your team here, and Brent Burns in the 10th round. I mean, that's a pretty nice pick. You got Joel Eriksson Ek, it looks like, in the 9th round.
Oh yeah.
Anybody that was kind of a steal for you that you thought really contributed?
You just said his name. It was Eriksson Ek.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie. That Minnesota line was buzzing. I think he got moved up to like the second line center position or something like that. And the entire time he was dishing out assists. So he was a steal. Brett Burns too. He got a lot of points. I think I ended up, sitting him for a lot of the times because I had other good defensemen.
Yeah.
He had no Adam Fox, but I mean, he was a good 10th-round pick.
Nobody's Adam Fox, not even Cale Makar.
No, I'm with you there.
I wanted to ask you too, man. I mean, we got the league coming back this year, 20 teams. Do you like picking at any certain point in a draft? Because there's a couple different schools of thought. If you pick first, you can get Connor McDavid, as I was lucky enough to do this past year. But then you got to wait forever to pick again. I mean, do you like picking at the beginning, the end, somewhere in the middle? Is there any spot in the draft that you think is ideal for you?
I think like around the 5th pick.
Okay.
As long as you can pick in the top 5, I think you're getting an elite player. But I mean, you said it with the first pick, you end up getting the last pick in the 2nd round, and by then, like, all the good players are gone. So if you want like a truly elite top 5 player, you can still get that with the 5th pick. But at the same time, when the second round comes along, you can still kind of get like impactful players.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think I kind of like being, kind of either at the start or the end, because then you get 2 picks in a row, for a good chunk of the
Right.
draft. So that's always nice. And like I said, I mean, I just lucked into the first pick last year and got McDavid, which basically carried my team. So that was nice. But
Yeah, you said
yeah,
it.
yeah, for sure, man. But listen, Constantine, man, I definitely want to talk to you about the Rangers, ask you a couple questions about them, and we'll get to that in just a second. But first, we do have to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And Constantine and I would both like to thank everyone for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And yeah, man, we'll switch the focus to the Rangers now. For starters, we got to talk about this playoff run that this team went on last year. I mean, just crazy. Being down 3-1 to Pittsburgh, coming back and winning, being down 2-0 to the Canes, being down 3-2 to the Canes, coming back and winning, and then the battle with Tampa Bay. I mean, man, like just kind of, I mean, how did you feel about the whole thing? Was there kind of a moment that stood out for you? What was it like watching all these games?
There was this one play where Kakko just kept possession along the end board in the offensive zone, and that whole kids line had me screaming. Philippi Lidl he kept me crazy the entire time. I think they looked better than our stars for most of the games. I think they were our best line most of the games. You know, that's.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I definitely can appreciate that shout out for, I know the play you're talking about with Kakko. I think that was game 2 against Pittsburgh, and it was getting late and the Rangers had the 1-goal lead. And this is the one, right? This is the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would not give up the puck.
Yeah, man, he had it forever. He's behind the Pittsburgh net and going back and forth and just hanging on to possession. And, it's so easy to get caught up like in goals and assists and everything, but you see a play like that and it's like, man, Kakko, he's really coming into his own. So the kid line was kind of doing it for you this past postseason run.
Yeah. And I'm excited because they're a future. They're going to keep doing it. They'll probably be on separate lines, like all 3 of them for this upcoming season. But, Gallant did kind of hint toward the kid line coming back. So we'll hope.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even if they don't start together, we could see them at, one time or another for the upcoming season. They might have to get the band back together. And, I was actually going to ask you eventually about Lafreniere and Kakko, but since we're talking about them right now, I might as well ask you about them right now. I mean, would you like to see them on the same line, or, I'm kind of doing my line projections and, I'm thinking maybe Lafreniere on the top line with Mika and Kreider, Kakko with Panarin and Trocheck, but just any thoughts there about what you might expect from those guys and who you'd like to see them play with?
So, I think you mentioned a few times that you like Kakko as like a grinder, kind of like defensive forward, right? And Panarin works really well with that kind of player. So I think he works well on the second line. I think Lafreniere would really shine with Mika and Kreider. So so long as Mika and Panarin stay on different lines, I think I like Kakko and Lafreniere on different lines. However, I kind of want to see Panarin and Mika on the same line.
Okay.
And if that's the case, I want to see Kreider up with them as well. And then Kakko and Lafreniere can be in the second line together. Maybe throw up Hedel, bring the kid line back, second line. Trocheck, whatever, third line. He can do that.
Yeah, it's tempting, and it's a topic that comes up on the podcast and among Ranger fans every now and then. Very tempting to put Panarin and Mika together, and you could have Kreider with them. Maybe Kreider plays the right wing, and I mean that's just a ridiculous top line. And to your point, then you can keep the kid line together and maybe even make them the de facto second line.
Yeah, because that's the thing. When we didn't have, like an elite second line, it made sense to kind of split the talent. You can have young kids playing with stars and like really develop players. But now that we have the kid line shining through in the most important clutch situations, I think they're ready for second line positions. And that gives us the opportunity, like the door is wide open to super stack that top line and have Panarin, Mika, Kreider.
You might be talking me into it, man. The more we talk about this here, the more I'm almost thinking like, yeah, maybe that is the way to go. But we'll see. I mean, I think it's an interesting idea and something that Gallant can keep in his back pocket. Again, if they need a spark, we saw what that kid line could do last year in the playoffs, and maybe that's something that they could go back to. I did want to ask you also about obviously there's some turnover every season. Some players kind of some certain guys depart and other guys come in. Of all the guys that left in free agency, the most prominent being Strome and Kopp and Vetrano, and now, of course, Tyler Mott as well. Is there anyone from that group that you really would have wanted to see the Rangers bring back for this upcoming season? Like, who stings the most there for you?
Tyler Mott.
Tyler Mott? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Strome's up there too, because Strome, he made a difference, He was an important player. He was kind of given a lot of responsibilities that I don't think he should have been. Like, it wasn't fair to him being on the top power play. On the ice when there are open nets, like he was kind of given responsibilities that got him in trouble. But I think Tyler Mott was the perfect kind of player for what we needed. Again, like I remember him, we were shorthanded at one point, and he just would not give up the puck. He skated into the offensive zone and then right back out again, just killing time. And it was like one of the best shorthanded plays I've ever seen. So I'm gonna miss Tyler Mott.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's even worse than too when you see that he signs with the Senators for just 1 year and 1.35 million. It's just like, damn, man, like we couldn't find a way to just squeeze him in under the cap. You know what I mean? I think that makes it sting a little bit more, right?
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, but all the best to Tyler Mott, and who knows? Maybe if the Senators aren't in contention this year, maybe Drury goes back and trades for him again at the deadline. You never know for sure, right?
Yeah, the big dream come true.
Yeah. How about it? All right. So, I mean, the biggest pickup for the Rangers this offseason, I would say, certainly was Vincent Trocheck, who's played on both the Panthers as well as the Canes. Obviously, the Rangers knocked out Trocheck and the Canes in the second round this year. But how did you feel about the signing of Vincent Trocheck? Were you on board with it, or was there anybody else you would have wanted instead of Trocheck?
I do really like Trocheck. I think that even though we beat out the Kings in the playoffs, I think he was one of the biggest pests, and he was one of the toughest players to actually get through. And if our current management is really trying to be hard to play against and really trying to value the big body, the nitty-gritty kind of player, then Trocheck is the perfect grab, I think. Especially if we see him in that third line center position like I'm talking about. Now there was one player, I forget who, but it was okay, yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right, man. Look, there were a ton of free agents, so it's hard to remember everything,
Yeah. But there was another center I was thinking of who's a bit of a more expensive player. So we would have had to trade probably Nils Lundqvist, who, looking back on it, would have been smart to trade him while his value was a bit higher. But yeah, I'm happy with Trocheck. He was my second choice.
Yeah. You mentioned Nils Lundqvist. I mean, what do you think about like the sixth defenseman spot? Because that's kind of a hot button topic among Ranger fans. And when you look at this roster, that's one of the the big battles going into training camp. I think it's looking like either Zach Jones or Matthew Robertson, probably the most likely candidates. But any thoughts there? Or would you want to add a veteran defenseman? There's been talk that the Rangers could do that as well, although it's kind of slim pickings at this point. So any thought for that battle there?
Yeah, I don't want to vet. I feel like we should be growing our young players, and for me, it's Zach Jones. And the reason being, I think that what the Rangers have been doing on their defensive pairings has been putting an offensively talented defenseman with a bit of a more like stay-at-home defenseman. You can see that with Adam Fox and Ron Lindgren. You can see that with Trouba and Miller. I know Trouba is still offensive, but he still plays with a more like defensive mindset. So with our third pairing, having Schneider and Jones still kind of sticks to that. You know, you have your offensive quarterback style defenseman, and you have your hard-hitting stay-at-home defenseman.
No, I'm with you, man. I think Zach Jones, I would think probably has the inside track to playing time, but you never know for sure. I mean, there can always be a couple surprises, you know, as far as training camp battles and things like that. We've seen some surprises going into the season in previous seasons. You know, Keandre Miller's a great example of that. Obviously carved out a role for himself, and man, can't wait to see him this year. But I also wanted to ask you about, you know, Alex Georgiev being traded to the Avalanche. Any thoughts on that? Because Georgiev was always one of those guys that was kind of a polarizing Ranger when he was here. But, you know, getting 2/3 and a fifth, I believe, was the return from the Avalanche. Any thoughts on the trade of Georgie there to Colorado?
Well, Georgie killed it. I didn't think we'd get that much for Yergi. I was really impressed with him. I think it was 2 seasons ago when Yergi was still playing. But this past season, I know he didn't play much, and he complained about that inconsistency. But other than that one dominant game against California, I think it was, or sorry, Carolina.
Yeah.
But other than like that one dominant game, he struggled. So I have no issue with shipping him out, especially if we can get an actual return for him. As far as I'm concerned, all we need is Shesterkin.
Yeah, no, valid point. I mean, it's one of those situations where, you know, it'd be nice to be able to hang on to Georgiev, but at this point, you know, his price tag is too high. And, you know, for anybody that's a fan of Georgiev, I think you have to feel pretty good for him, because now not only does he get to be a starting goalie, but he gets to do so for the defending Stanley Cup champion. So not a bad place for him to land.
You're right. It's a killer spot for him. It's also a killer spot for us. Now we have room for Halak, who I think can do wonders in a backup position for New York. So I think it's a win-win for both teams.
I agree. I think Halak has been a little bit underrated throughout his career. I mean, never really an elite goalie, but probably a little bit better than he tends to get credit for. I also wanted to ask you about Gerard Gallant, man. I mean, how do you feel? Because, you know, you go on Ranger Twitter, and I mean, you know how it is, man. You know, there's fans that they'll get mad at him for anything he does. But for the most part, you know, I think he did a nice job this past year. I mean, what's your assessment of him, you know, 1 year into his Ranger tenure here?
I agree. Like it's no secret that in this past year we've improved and far exceeded expectations. Like think about it. At the beginning of the season, our goal was make the playoffs, you know? And now I'm sitting here saying I'm hoping for a Stanley Cup next season. Like our expectations have shot up since Gerard Gallant, really. And on Twitter, man, the list right any coach. Like David Quinn, who gave us Adam Fox, who gave us Buchnevich, who gave us Keandre Miller, and who let those, you know, young stars shine. They wanted him out. Like the Fire Quinn gang was every night really loud and obnoxious. So the list right any head coach, I don't think it takes anything away from Gerard Gallant. I think Gallant did a great job this year. I think he'll do a great job next year as well. And
Yeah, no,
again, sorry, good.
Yeah, no, I think he's been awesome. And it's just one of those things, you know, I think I talked about this when the hiring happened. Sometimes, man, whether it's hockey or really any sport, you know, sometimes you have just the right coach with the right team at the right time. And it just felt like the perfect hire for this team. And, you know, to your point, you know, watching what they did last year and, you know, how the kids are coming along. I mean, I don't know how people can be mad at him, really, you know?
Well, look, he hasn't been perfect, right?
Yeah.
There have been a few times where, you know, there's a close game, an offensive draw, and he'll put on the fourth line. He'll value veterans over our young kids, which I'm not a huge fan of. I'd like to see those young kids get playing time. I like to value our future over the right now. So, you know, a few bones to pick with the men, but like, obviously he's the expert. He's the head coach. I'm a 20-year-old kid who just got into hockey a few years back. So like, I can't sit here and judge him.
No, I'm with you, man. I mean, yeah, there's always things you can nitpick, but I think you hit the nail on the head there, man. He did a great job in his first year. And like you said, I mean, the expectations have skyrocketed. We go from being a borderline playoff team to now hopefully a Stanley Cup contending team. And obviously he's had a lot to do with that. I also wanted to ask you about this, man. Obviously by the time this episode publishes, Ranger rookie training camp will be underway, and they've got those 2 scrimmages against the Flyers coming up as of this recording. But are there any of the Ranger prospects that you're really interested in, and maybe even you're hoping that they could actually make the Ranger team for this upcoming season?
I know Brendan Othman's not going to make the team. I know that they're probably going to let him stay in the AHL for some development, or sorry, not the AHL. He can't be there.
The OHL, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
So yeah, he'll stay in the OHL for some development, which I'd like to see him on the team because I think he's too good for the OHL at this point. That's been, pretty well documented. But I just don't see where the room is. I don't see where he can fit on the team. I think at this point, other than like that 6D spot and maybe one of our wingers in the 4th line, like our lineup's set in stone. It's full. There are really no more moves we can make. Like we know what it's going to be. I just really want to see Othman play. I just have to wait a year.
No, yeah. I mean, by all accounts, this guy is an absolute monster. I mean, you just look at the numbers that he's put up in the OHL, and that's probably all the confirmation that you need. I mean, just stupid video game-like numbers from Brian Othman. So I'm with you. I think he'll probably end up back there this upcoming season. But again, never say never. I mean, you can always, with the Rangers, if he plays well enough in training camp, the preseason, he can force the issue. But I'm with you. I think the odds are probably against it. Hey, man, if you got some time, I figure we can wrap up here with a little bit of a lightning round. I've done this with a couple of guests in the past, so I'll just I'll ask you a couple rapid fire questions, man. You just tell me the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay.
All right, cool. Here we go. So, all right, favorite all-time New York Ranger. Who you got?
Mark Messier.
Nice. Favorite current New York Ranger?
Mika.
Yeah, great choice. Favorite Ranger Stanley Cup playoff moment of all time?
Can I do Panarin's Game 7 OT snipe?
Absolutely, you can, man. That was a hell of a moment, and I think it's fresh in all of our heads. And yeah, man, what a relief. When that series ended and that puck went into the net there. You know what? Not to deviate too far from the lightning round here, but I did this episode where people send in stories and everything. Why don't you go ahead and share your story, man, with that goal? Where were you? Who were you with? And the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, so I was in my basement watching the game with my brother.
Okay.
And it, like you said, man, it was like the air just left the room. It was a huge sigh of relief, and the tension throughout the whole series was really high. Those last 3 games, it was do or die, and we did it. I can't even tell you how we did it, but I was at a loss of words, and still at a loss of words. Like, I can't describe how relieving it was to see that puck in the back of the net. I watched the replays, and I still couldn't see where the puck went. I still couldn't see how the puck got in the net. All I know is it ended up there, and it was masterful.
Yeah, it is one of those shots where it kind of just disappeared for a second. Then you see the back of the net move, and then everybody's standing up, and it's just like, oh my God, we won. And yeah, man, like as much as I would love to say that, I screamed and ran around I just like collapsed. I mean, was that kind of how it was for you? Just complete relief?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I couldn't move for a second. I was excited, don't get me wrong, but like if you looked at me, you couldn't tell. Like I was drained, and in that moment, just nothing but relief.
Fair enough. All right, back to the lightning round here. Do you have a least favorite NHL team?
The Flyers.
Okay, fair enough. Good choice. Favorite Ranger jersey that you've ever owned? I mean, do you collect jerseys? Do you have any? Or is there one that you would want to get?
So right now I do have a Lafreniere Liberty jersey.
Okay.
Like one of the new like 1994 style jerseys.
Nice. Yeah, I'd like to see them break out the Liberty jerseys a little bit more often, this season and the coming seasons as well. But no, that's a great jersey, man. A solid investment. I think Lafreniere is going to be here for a long time. Favorite hockey movie?
Hockey movie, Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Ducks, the first one, or any of the others?
I didn't know there was more than one, so yeah, probably the first one.
Oh yeah, man. There's a whole trilogy. You got to watch all three for sure. But
Okay.
I would say the first one is the best.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah. Favorite hockey video game?
NHL 22. I put hours into that one, and I'm probably gonna get 23 as well.
Awesome,
So-
man. It's worth playing because I have NHL 14 that I still break out every now and then, so I'm quite a ways behind.
There is I don't think there's a game in all the times I've been playing video games that I spent more time into than NHL 22.
All right, I might have to give it a shot then. Is there an NHL arena that you have not visited that you would most like to go to and see a game?
The Bell Center.
Okay.
I have family up in Montreal, and for some reason have yet to see a hockey game there. So, it's about time.
Yeah, no, looks like a party atmosphere for sure. And which would you rather see in person? I always end on this one. Would you rather see a hat trick while attending a game or a line fight?
I think a line fight.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, but I don't know. Both are exciting. I'll see either one happily.
Yeah, the crazy thing for me is the last two Ranger games I've been to, and granted, one was a preseason game, but I saw a preseason game where Hedl got a hat trick, and I saw Mika get a hat trick against the Sabres. So at this point, man, I'm all for a line fight because I've seen the hat trick twice. So.
Okay, well, next time you go to the game, hit me up so I can see a hat trick.
Yeah, exactly. I'll let you
know,
and we'll get a hat trick, and maybe we'll get a line fight in the same night. You never know.
Perfect.
All right. So one more thing, man. I'll let you end on this. Is there any prediction you'd like to throw out this season for the Rangers as far as what's going to happen? Who's going to lead the team in goals? Anything you want to throw out there? Who might win an award? Anything like that?
I think Igor is going to end up with a goal this season.
Very nice. It's going to happen sooner or later, before it's all said and done for him.
Yeah, I mean, he came so close this season. It's bound to happen.
It's funny. I was on YouTube the other day, and like some highlights from Game 6 against the Penguins popped up, and I'm just gonna watch this again because why not? And man, he made such a great pass up the center of the ice to Spring Mika, and then Kreider ended up scoring on a rebound. But I mean, he just handles the puck about as well as any goalie I've ever seen.
He handles the puck better than most defensemen I've ever seen.
Fair point.
Yeah, it's crazy. The man's crazy.
He's unbelievable, man. So, yeah, man, listen, this was a ton of fun, and maybe we'll get to do this again sometime down the road at some point here. But Constantine, again, congratulations on the big fantasy season this past year, and thanks for playing again this year, and thanks for joining us here tonight.
No, absolutely. You'll see me next year when I win again. So, we'll put you along.
All right, fair enough. A little smack talk never hurt anybody. So, Ranger fans, thank you guys as always for tuning in here, and we'll catch you guys next time.